This was my words, and they were multi-vowels come together.
So what instructional conversation. So
Okay.
you're looking back on your data, so I want you guys to have, what is the data kind of telling you?
We use our spelling test as data, as like a formal data.
I think they can identify consonant and vowels, but when we ask them to notice the patterns, that's where they get stuck.
Yeah, the lower kids get stuck with that, and
they can't answer that question.
some of them can't. Some of them can. We have a response in their journal that they also do, saying what pattern do you know. That is hard for them, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing for them to. I don't know.
What in the data that's showing you that it's hard for the kid?
They either avoid it.
It's a really open-ended question.
Yeah.
It's a super open-ended question.
They avoid it. They can't really form.
I don't know if they necessarily know what we're looking for.
Talk to me more about that. What do you mean by that?
I think we need to. I mean, we've explained it to them.
It's really open-ended.
Yeah.
And we have some kids that are, well, we have a lot of our kids that are just like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah. So I think
just tell me what you want me to do.
Explicitly.
Yeah, we need to teach
really
that.
Need. So we went over consonant and vowels, and I think they're doing awesome with that.
My lower kids are still having a problem. Kids like my Alberto, he still has a problem with consonant and vowels. He wants to say that this is a consonant and that's a vowel.
Right.
But I'm still working with him in tier 2 with that. So I do a follow-up with him. But
well, like on Pablo in English, he's got it.
He's
so
doing.
I don't know.
Yeah, so not all of them. Like a lot of the some of the lower children or the kids who are struggling. Some of them get it really. They're getting it, like the way that we're teaching it. The kids that aren't getting it, they probably need more tactile stuff.
Yeah, it comes down to that question because I've asked them before.
What were some of the strategies you used during that lesson that we can do some reflection on? What were some of the strategies that either kids got or
they
really
got hand signals with me.
Okay.
So a consonant vowel and then silent E because we also do non-vowels, and that's really strong for them. And at first, the kids who like the Alberto would be like, kind of going on Pablo too, but now on Pablo doesn't even look around. So to me, I'm like, yay, Juan Pablo, got it. That one was strong for me.
He got some really hard multisyllabic words in his test. I mean, he got some of them. So I was like, oh, you go, boy.
So I don't know what you did.
What caused that?
Well, I took a risk this spelling test. The last spelling test I did, I front-loaded a lot before that test, and we're doing it a little differently. I think that what's working really good this year is that we aren't giving them a spelling test every single week. That is helping our kids a lot.
It doesn't overwhelm them.
It doesn't overwhelm them, so they just have one spelling test a week. And then it helps us to be able to, like, when I don't have to do my spelling words, when I don't have to, like, and I tell them, these words are not that important. It's how to spell that's really important. That's what you're learning. You're not learning how to spell spot. You're not learning how to spell vinieron. You're learning how to spell.
You were going to mention a strategy. You took a risk. What was the risk that
you took? The risk was that I gave him harder words. I gave him words that were more multisyllabic, because what you see, and I don't think it's like this in English, but
it's different.
Yeah, it's ridiculous in Spanish. Some of the words that are in their level 1 books, they'll have dinosaurio in a level 1 book. I'm like, seriously? And you've got kids that don't know how to speak Spanish at all, so they have to sound that word out.
So you're giving them that.
So I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna go there. We're gonna go there because that's what they're expected to do. So we're gonna go there.
What I've noticed is that they bring that skill over me.
Yeah, and I'm hoping.
And that's totally fine. I'd say, well, syllables are different here, but they pick up the patterns because you're showing them how to find patterns. So even though we're doing 2 languages, that skill still.
And I also noticed, like, at the beginning of every single.
I'm gonna ask this. You said going there. Deconstruct that for me. What do you mean going there?
Well, our Calle book is very, it just wants you to do open syllables, which is like 2 letters, 2 letters, 2 letters. Well, that is not real world. The world is not full of words that just are 2 syllables.
So you're adding the saltness there.
Yeah, I'm adding the salt, baby.
Okay.
So, and we also, when I'm doing these harder words, we're also, putting them in a paragraph. So I think that also helps in context.
And
relatable to them, yeah. But, I think that really I think that it was hard for them. They didn't get as high grades as they did last time. The spelling words were more, they were just more straightforward. Abuelita,
Yeah.
3-syllable words. These ones were 4 and 5 syllables, some of them. I threw in 2 1-syllable words. But most of them were 4 3-syllable words, there were like 2 4-syllable words, and there were 2 5-syllable words.
So you basically upped the bar.
I upped the ante, baby.
Okay, that's good. And it appears like your kids responded.
Yeah, and I grade it a little bit differently. That helps them too. Like, I grade him as in, it's Alberto, so that's horrible. I need to help him. I don't know how I'm going to help him, but we'll get to that. But I just grade the syllables. So, like, this word's a 3-syllable word, and I tell them that before. I'm like, guys, it doesn't matter. You don't need to know how to spell viñero. You don't need to know how to spell buenísima. But you need to know how to hear that and transfer it. You know what I mean? Like, abuela and buenísima have the same syllable. Bue, bue. You need to be able to hear that and go, oh, that's be, e, u. You know? Be, u, e. I mean,
Yeah.
dyslexia. Anyway, so, yeah, so I tell them it's a 5-syllable word, it's worth 5 points. And they're like, oh, that gets them super motivated.
Yeah.
So I kind of relate it to like a video game, like this is a super mega word. You know, like it is worth 5 points because and they really they want to try to spell those words.
I already turned back mine, but that was the day we had no power, so it was fine.
Oh yeah, she didn't give her spelling
We were
test
just
at
in the
all.
hallway. Oh, it worked. I added, if you want an extra point, identify the consonant, the vowels, and then use identify too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how, that word is still on my wall.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna
And I need to put it on
they
there
need to
too.
level up already, because they totally got it. So,
Yeah.
that's my end, I have to do that.
Well, you know what, you guys did a good job of just kind of learning a little bit from your students by looking at the data piece. So what I heard you say in terms of some of the strategies that you gained from your data was the use of hand signals. You did a lot of front loading ahead of time. One of the things I thought that was just absolutely effective is giving the harder words. Upping the bar.
I was
for
a
the
little bit
kids.
worried
That's
about
this
that.
week. Now they
Yeah.
have the long vowels.
Now
and
you
they
have
know-
harder words,
So
yeah.
now they know the silent E, but will they hear it? Will they
remember?
remember that it's
Will they
there?
flip the sound?
Yeah.
So when they write cake,
So
will they remember that CAK means cack, doesn't mean cake? Will they flip that sound? Oh, it says a and a and a.
Yeah.
you know?
And we're going to get to that, and if they don't, we got to immediately intervene.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys talked about putting words in context,
Mm-hmm.
which was great, and making it real world for the kids.
We always put pictures with their words, always with
And-
their.
And you gave an incentive to motivate them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So those are some strategies I heard from you. So as we're thinking about going on to now, what we're going to do, let's keep in mind these are some strategies that actually
The
help
words. Yeah.
help the students. So with that being said, where I'm at is number 2.
Okay.
So I'm going to kind of keep this a little bit on the form here, or the
Okay.
tool. And so what identified standard are we going to address, either in mathematics or language arts?
The standard, well, I feel like we need to up the ante a little bit. Yeah. I feel like we need to, stinky thing is that I have no standards in Spanish.
So you
Do
can
I?
use,
A lot of those skills are transferable.
It does, but like, there are no specific,
You should look up the real ones in Spanish.
you think?
They all look the same.
so as we're looking at that standard, having your mind conceptually, what is a skill? Because we want to look at the standard, but we're going to deconstruct the skill from the standard.
Right.
So as you guys were thinking about coming to this meeting, what were you thinking about teaching?
Well, I'm thinking that I need to move on from, I need to just keep that consonant and vowel in their mind, but I need to move on somehow. I need to extend it, like, I'm not sure how, you know? Do you feel like the same way? Or what do you feel like?
I feel like that second step, them identifying, like
You mean creating?
applying that skill.
Applying the skill.
Yeah, that's.
The creating is the part that gets dicey with some of my kids, with some of, not all of them, But some of them do still
So
have a
they
hard
can
time.
definitely identify it. Now I wanna see them apply those patterns, identify the patterns while they're reading.
Like this vowel, so like
they
this,
can- so
this
they're
word has
reading with
two
more
vowels in it,
accuracy. Yep.
right? This word has two vowels in it, that
Yeah.
A must be saying its name instead of ah.
I'm gonna ask our instructional coach this question, as you're hearing the young ladies talk about
Oh, I need to-
where they're going, what would be standards that would be associated with that whole applying the patterns while we're reading?
Okay, the phonics would be under foundational skills. And second grade number 3, the standard says know and apply grade level phonics and word analysis skills in decoding words.
Is that?
So
That's what we're doing right
But
now.
then if
There's
you're
so
guys
many
saying you want
layers.
to expand that.
Yeah, there's so many
I would
layers of
say
it. What it says?
You're really more going for reading with sufficient accuracy and fluency to support comprehension.
Yeah,
That's where you want to end up.
decode word, yeah.
So
Yeah.
what, if we had to identify that, what standard would that be?
If we had to identify this,
What you just said,
Yeah.
That's standard.
Before,
would that be reading for,
yeah,
No, it's
Read.
foundational skills for.
foundational skills for?
read with sufficient accuracy and fluency,
I
yeah.
like,
Because I heard you say accuracy.
yeah, and I like.
And we do fluency, yeah, we kind of link those together. Happy.
So with that being said, on the text box here, let's go ahead and just write in foundational. What was it?
Did you
What
find
get?
something, Melissa?
Foundational.
Yes, it's fluency, but I like this one. Use context to confirm
Oh.
self-correct word recognition and rereading if not. I like the self-correcting aspect of
Okay.
that because that's something that we really emphasize with them. You need to listen to yourself and catch those errors.
Okay. So you
So-
guys identified the standard. Which one do you think?
Well,
Yeah,
it's
2.4.
It's
and
2.4, but then it's got a little bit of a, it's got A, B, and C.
It's got skills underneath.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so what's so what?
So the skill would be wouldn't those be the skills right there?
Yeah, which we're gonna
Okay.
engage in
So
the
they're
next
talking
one.
about the umbrella?
Yeah, to read this
2.4.
2.4.
At RF 2.4, so that's reading foundational skills.
Okay, let's go ahead and put that right into the textbook.
What I miss.
We're just
We-
writing.
The one you suggested.
Yeah.
No, that we.
So as you guys are writing, in that standard itself, it has skills underneath.
Yeah.
So let's have a discussion because those skills are really we're deconstructing that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to help us with our teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So what are they saying in that standard? What are the skills that will be addressed?
It's mostly fluency.
Yeah, it talks about purpose and understanding. It talks about oral accuracy, appropriate rate. That one's not so much, right? We're really trying to focus on that last one. I think this one's really
Because I
good.
think, so what we were focusing,
So
The first
explain
part
the last
was-
one.
The last one seems like a cross-check strategy. Does it sound right? Does
is
it look right?
context to confirm or self-correct word
So you're
recognition.
really looking at the pattern.
Reading is
Does it look right?
necessary. That's the part we like.
Yeah, and you're looking at the cross-check, right? Does it look like right? Is that what we're doing, the consonant vowel consonant? And that's really useful for kids who are new speakers to Spanish.
And I feel like
Because-
we started with accuracy, and this is just
Yeah.
a natural progression of
Yeah, I've
it.
been
That's
doing
what I
both, so,
think.
yeah.
So what you said, let's see if we can put that in box number 2 in terms of the skill. You said about 3 or 4 things were the skills that we're going to be explicitly addressing.
So I think that's a good strategy would be the cross-check strategy. Cross-check, does it sound right, does it look right? Which is basically what that big long thing is saying.
But also extending it to context.
Right, but you have to, the cross-check is when they get to a word and they're like, and they read something else. And that's when you're like, does it sound right, does it look right? Well, does it sound right, talks about the context. Does it look right, talks about,
So
Correct
they're
word recognition.
self-correcting.
Mhm.
So I'll just put that in for
yeah.
That's
Is there
part
any
of the
is there any
test.
other skill that may not be explicit in that you know you're going to have to teach to get the kids to engage that standard?
Those patterns. I think those patterns.
I think for some of them, that context well, not for all of them, but for some of them especially, and I'm thinking as a Spanish teacher, not as an English teacher, but I think that the context is gonna help them have an aha moment with the patterns. Does that make sense? Like, the word is dinosaurio, but they read, they're really mumbling along when they're reading. They're
So-
kind of mushing everything together and not, or they're they're changing the last syllable. And I'll say, and a lot of times I have to say, I didn't hear that syllable that you read.
So what would be the
But-
explicit skill you're
Yeah.
gonna teach to interrupt that cycle?
I think it's gonna have to be, does it sound right, does it look like, but I don't know if that's,
Well,
that's
the
specific enough.
We'll use in the context clues.
Yeah.
So we teach them, if you get stuck on a word, sometimes there's pictures and there's a group of words around it that will guide you to the
Right, yeah.
context clues.
Okay, so that's
So
skill.
that's something that we do have to explicitly model, remodel, model again, keep doing it.
So that will be a skill, being able to use context clue skill.
Mhm.
So I would put the context clues, because that's gonna be part of your teaching as well.
Because if they sound like dinosaurio, but if they don't.
But that's what I'm saying, like,
That's the trouble you're running into.
I have a whole different thing because I have kids, like, it could be in Chinese, right? And just because there's a picture of a dinosaur doesn't mean that I'm gonna say in Chinese, whatever that word is in Chinese. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's so text-based in Spanish for me. Does that make sense? It's so word-heavy. Like, you don't teach it the same way to kids who are native speakers. I almost need to have a group of, okay, all these kids who are low that are native speakers, come here. All these kids that are low, because I have to teach them differently. Because those native speakers, and maybe that's an aha for me, those native speakers will interrupt those non-native speaker learning, and they'll go, oh, that's a dinosaurio, that's a dinosaurio. And then she's going, oh, yeah, it's whatever he said.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
So
you
what
know.
are some strategies in your teaching, like what was that?
Show her what you did.
What?
Well,
That.
but when we,
Oh, yeah,
when we
yeah.
get to that point.
Okay. So
When we-
cross-checking
when we get to
context
that.
clues, I think will definitely help for native speakers, for sure.
Pictures.
But I'm stuck on what's gonna help my kids who are
Sure.
not native speakers. And
Okay.
some of them are those tweener kids, you know what I mean? They're native speakers, but they're not really native speakers.
If we had to, and you guys have now shared what were the skills that are gonna be taught in that standard, what are the prerequisites to those skills? What will the kids have to know to actually engage those skills? I want you to have a discussion among yourselves and then be able to jot down those key things.
No consonants and vowels, right?
Yeah.
For that, would be a good prerequisite. But not just that, they need to know, they need
The
to be
sounds.
listening to themselves.
Yes, I'm gonna put a star next to that because I know you have too. That's self-recognition.
They don't, some of them don't have, and that's the problem. They're not even self-correcting, they're just,
It's almost like no one's ever asked them to
No.
do that.
it's exactly what it feels like to me.
It's like, I tell you to listen to me, mommy tells you, abuela tells you to listen to her,
But
but
no,
now you gotta listen to
To
yourself.
yourself. Mm-hmm.
And I say, some people, yeah.
What are some other prerequisite skills? Because the prerequisite skills, you're now embedding your interventions. Because before the kids can actually do that, you're gonna have to embed these prerequisite skills in your teaching. So you're actually putting your intervention strategies in with your 2-1 instruction
Okay.
in this box right here. So what are some other prerequisites?
Well, I think, Jen, if we are using context clues, I'm looking back at what we wrote last time because we
Yeah.
went over that, and that's something that.
We
so
did,
like
some of them
this-
still
like
need.
this- Well, yeah,
Yeah,
the sight words,
sight words, I
That's
need to hit
really-
that more heavy, I do,
Yeah,
I do,
sight
I,
um.
half a day in one day.
Just,
Scientifically, tell me, what do you mean by hit that more?
I don't know, because I hate rote stuff, I hate it, like, I hate it as long as the day is, I hate it, I know.
So
you
when
know
you
how to
hit-
make it fun.
So when you
It's
hit
like-
it, what do you mean by that?
I need to pay more attention to it, I'm not really paying attention to it, because I'm so overwhelmed with everything else.
To be fair, I just started hitting it this week, the sight words.
And testing, and I'm still doing math testing, I'm just overwhelmed. It's hard to teach a whole day in half a day. So,
But you're awesome.
well,
Both of you
thanks.
guys are awesome. You
So
guys are-
sight words, that's definite.
For me, the short and long vowel sound.
You know, this sounds dumb,
No.
letter sounds,
Yeah.
Yes.
because
no.
I have some kids that don't know it, and they could tell by their spelling tests, I'm like, I he doesn't know what that letter says.
So can I share with you what I started doing this week?
Yeah.
Okay, so I found, so the Ninja Turtle cards,
Yeah.
and they have the phonics, like the blends and all that stuff that we're gonna cover, and just plain old letters. So what I do is, no, if you have time, I set a timer for a minute, and they have a bunch,
Uh-huh.
and then they have to like flash it and say the sound of the letter.
Uh-huh.
And usually that would be boring, but because there's a Ninja Turtle on it, they were just like
Yeah.
really into it.
You mean the
So
whole class?
my groups,
Your
the
groups.
ones that need the letter sounds, they're just all about it. And
Yeah.
you're really good at that,
Yeah.
making those things.
Yeah.
I think you should sell them. That's just my opinion.
Oh.
That's awesome.
You should.
So as we look at, and I want you to bring out your wheel here, your DOK wheel. What would be the academic vocabulary?
No, it's okay.
What would be the academic vocabulary you're going to have to teach to ensure the kids get access to that standard?
Oh, look, I already have question stems right here. Ha ha. I'm a cheater.
No, use them.
It's right on my wheel.
Here, Miss Hair.
All right.
We'll back up for 1 second, because
Yeah.
I think there's another skill that
Oh yeah. What do you
I
think?
hear you guys say, oral language.
Oh yeah.
You really have got to be front loading that.
Especially if they're listening to themselves.
Yes.
Well,
If you don't have that language, it's gonna be real hard for you to produce it.
no, it's so true. So
You have to
so
make sure you
true.
give it to them.
Yeah, that's. And I have been good about doing sentence frames during this time. But it's still, and I do a lot of shared reading and a lot of stuff I did in kindergarten.
Does it work?
Making it work.
Well, because they need it. They're not. I have I have about 11 kids that are on level out of 45 kids. So that's tough. They're sweet as can be though, so that's good.
So when we get to the explicit teaching piece, we'll kind of identify what sentence frames we'll use.
Okay. And
Now
I
we can work with it.
I like the word distinguish.
distinguish.
I was gonna say this here, my mom said distinguish.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes, like, some of these words are so long in Spanish, and the kids that are they're second language learners, they give up after they say the word. They're like, I said it. I
Oh,
can't say
look,
any more
right
than
here.
that.
Identify patterns.
That's a level 2 word. Right
So-
there.
That works.
Escribe, por favor.
Yes. Oh, write it? Sorry.
So we got distinguish, patterns.
I like identify patterns.
I've been
That's a
using that.
good, because they already use identify a lot, so just flowing that.
I've been using that word identify in with doing the consonants and vowels. Then I use the word create when I talk about syllables. You need to create the syllables. And this is what I didn't get to say about this. One of the first things I did after we had our PLC is I went and I kind of revamped what I was doing. And one of the things I did is I asked them, how do you know, I said a whole little thing. Can I just show you real quick? And I gotta show you so you can hear the funny.
But I also, Jen, when I introduced identify,
Uh-huh.
I also said it in Spanish.
Oh,
To
yay.
support her.
So-
Because we're both bilingual and they know that.
So this is the,
So, yeah.
this is the thing, oh dang it, my eraser.
Oh, that's
If-
what I get.
If you were going to extend, because I heard you guys talk about extension. If you were going to extend that identifying the pattern, what would be the next level after they identified something?
Well, mine was create.
Okay.
Mine was create, that's what I used.
But I'm also thinking with like, the context clues,
The context clues.
where you would say,
I'm gonna analyze.
I want them to compare the two different patterns and why this one's a long vowel and why that was a short one.
Because
To me, that would show their understanding
Okay.
a little more. That's what I.
If you're using context clues and they have the word in context, and they're reading, I made a cack instead of a cake, right, just for an example, then you would want them to, you can use the word
identify
compare,
it and then.
compare the two
Mhm.
sound, like, That's that kind of that flip the sound.
Flip the sound, but
So
they're
compare the
very
two
nice.
sounds that A makes, because does it make sense what you just read? I made a cack. Okay, what's the other word that A says, other sound that A says? It's A, so I made a cake. Which one, compare those two, which one makes sense?
And why?
And why?
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, then you give the expressive language. They have to explain it, giving kids opportunities to talk.
Well, that's the why thing. It's like this was why. How can we know which letters in the word form the syllables? And so the next slide after this is a sentence frame of green and yellow because I give them popsicle sticks and so this was the first time I ever did it. So how do you find a word? How do you find the syllables? And so the sentence frame was I find the syllables by. And they read this. They read the sentence frame dutifully, like I modeled it, and then it was just silence. Okay, so the next kids, you go, silence. So then I just did it, they actually are talking. So that's a measure too, of that they actually have something that they know they're supposed to be doing with those things, you know what I mean? So it was pretty funny, it was like crickets. I identify the syllables by, do you know what she's talking about?
Well, that's feedback for you too.
Yeah, it is, and I said it to him, I'm like, okay, well now I know what you guys need.
Exactly. Hence, formative assessment.
It's not
It's
you,
it's-
it's me, we're gonna figure it out.
There you go. Awesome. Are there any other academic vocabulary we're definitely going to need to
I
teach?
really liked how we felt on compare.
Compare, that
I
was
like
good,
that.
yeah. The distinguish
Because
was
I've
good,
tossed
did we
that
write
in there
that down?
before, we haven't really, so I do like that.
I like the word distinguish because that to
Yeah.
me seems like a different word than create, and I've been using create a lot, like create. Now distinguish,
It's different, yeah.
you know,
How would you utilize your vocabulary and your spelling? How would you merge the two
these vocabulary and the lesson.
in the spelling test you gave? Because you say you're giving spelling tests, right?
Yeah,
How would you utilize assessing kids if they get the vocabulary?
do you mean like giving them points for doing that, or like
So assessing
rewarding
kids
them,
with the
seeing
spelling test.
if they understand it.
You got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Because you can either
That's a
you
good
can
idea.
even
That's a good.
add some of these words in your spelling test.
Right.
Not only they can spell it, but understand what does it mean.
Yeah.
Oh.
Just
I thought like
just a thought.
Distinguir has a diphthong, and it has a soft G, which is really hard.
I'm on the back page, ladies.
Comparar. Compare has a long vowel.
This is the fun part.
Yay.
How you guys gonna teach this? What's that creative stuff? And be explicit on how
Fairy
you
dust. Don't you know it's fairy dust?
You know? Be explicit on how you guys are going to teach the skill to.
Lots of worksheets.
Yeah, lots of worksheets.
You
You're
know,
gonna see us at
it's
the
like,
copy
yeah,
machine.
right. Get at it.
You see the copy machine? Your limit is up.
Yeah.
You know why it was broken? That's right, we hit that thing.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so
have a
obviously,
discussion first and then start writing.
I feel like the way that I've been doing it, I need to like not abandon it, but do less of what I've been doing because I just need to flip it somehow to make it a little bit. You know how you do the same thing? Oh, it's too monotonous. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Like it's like seriously.
I think I'm gonna keep going with the hand signals. They like to move.
Mhm.
These kids like to move. So that's
They do
what
like
I'm
to
gonna
move.
use
Mhm.
That.
If I had to challenge you on the word, I think, what would you say?
I know.
Oh, there. All right.
I know
will.
they
I
like
hope.
it.
No,
I
I'm just
know. I
kidding.
hope it's
I
not.
know.
a
I know.
strategy.
I know.
I know.
You told me that before.
Look at my desk at the end of the day. Yep.
All right.
I
So
like that.
so walk me through what would that look like?
So we would keep going with the same, continue with the same hand signals.
Okay. So we're going to explicitly teach through the hand signal.
Yes.
You guys know the compare.
Compare, yeah.
You already have.
Don't we use that for math?
Yeah. So they already know that. So we're
Well,
just
they
gonna
don't
use
yet, but
No, yeah.
They do-
Yeah.
have you
I've
done
said-
it?
I've said compare.
oh, I haven't
Oh,
yet.
yeah. I said
We haven't
We're
gotten to
gonna
that part
compare
yet in math.
vowels and not yet. And they go like this. So we gotta
Yeah.
bring it back a little bit. They do like that. So for sure, hand signals, acting out. You know, so what I've been doing, trying not to work for me, with the PowerPoints, you know how we talked about challenging those kids who are a little higher? So I use the blanks, and I've been teaching them a test-taking skill, but it also works with them listening to themselves. So like if there's a blank, and we got 4 choices, we plug it in, each one, and we eliminate the ones that don't make sense. So they're already using that skill already. So what, you know what I mean?
I actually took your idea. I stole your idea, and I have language experts, and I have reading experts. And my reading experts sit at the front, and they have their clipboards, and they're watching everybody. But they're also doing the work. But they're looking to see. Yeah, they're scouting for children who are following. Then they're not part of the sharing at all. They're not part of the sentence frames, because guess who's doing all the work? Those kids are doing all the work. So my little ones who are like, I'll just let my partner who reads a 28, and I'm reading a 1, I'll let her do all the work, because she will.
Yep.
You know, so I separated them. Today was awesome. I felt like my low kids actually had to work, which was beautiful.
So how would that look in this lesson?
So I think I would
you
continue to
Thank you.
do that.
Thank
I'm going to continue to do that, even though I just started.
What is that?
I'm going to continue to use my experts, and then I'm also, I don't know. I feel like I need something more.
What will you be doing explicitly?
Well, I actually today, I had some of them stood up to be my teachers, and I was sitting here and I was right in back of little Jesus and little Albertico, who never want to do anything. I was right there. I'm like, mira que está haciendo la maestra. So I was right there. I was being the bulldog, baby. And I'm sorry, these kids up here are perfectly capable of pointing to those words.
So making them accountable.
Yes.
So how would we write that? Someone from 7-Eleven would know what you would do.
Be the bulldog. No, just kidding.
Follow along.
I think pass the torch, or that's probably too hard for 7-Eleven. Share the pin, but I don't think 7-Eleven people would get that, would they?
Share the learning.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Ooh, you got some.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So you're sharing the pin so you can do intervention. You're actually
So
being
I'm
the
doing an
intervention.
intervention during tier 1.
You got it. You
Yeah.
got it.
Because I caught a bunch of kids, and I was like, oh no, my friend, we need to do this work. This is important.
Any other explicit things that you guys want to be teaching for this year?
How to use those clues. So we both include really good pictures.
Okay.
That's why our PowerPoints take us so long,
It does
but they're
take us
worth
forever.
it.
Yeah.
They're worth it. So
Use of PowerPoint
Yeah.
to give visual representation.
And they can write on it and
so
stuff,
when we
yeah.
have that blank, there's always a picture. It's not directly linked to the answer, but it's a clue.
Okay.
So those are the Alberto clues.
Because in his books, he
Because
does
he's-
have pictures that he can clue to.
Mhm.
Yeah, because he's
So
reading lower.
We model it up there, and they even model it up there too,
What are you modeling again?
using the pictures. as
Using-
content.
Escribe
Modeling?
por favor.
Okay.
Modeling the I only say that because you guys are coming up with some great strategies, and we're going to start
I'm gonna
archiving
use it.
these.
Yeah.
You know,
Use it.
because you're actually doing your lesson plan right
Yeah.
now. Of any of the Jackson 5 that you will be explicitly identifying as a teaching strategy,
Well, definitely sentence frames,
okay, which would be
structured oral
You
language.
got it.
Culturally relevant.
Because
Culturally
you're going
relevant.
to use the
Yeah.
examples, okay.
Well, and also, oh my gosh, do you know how proud these kids are? They're from Mexico. I did, I'm doing, a little late, I'm doing Dia de Independencia, September 15th. And there's a thing in Calle, there's like a little article, they are so, I said today, okay, everybody, we need to clean up so we can continue to learn about Mexico. Everybody, hurry up! I'm like, oh my gosh. They were like so excited. Maria's the first one on the carpet. I'm like,
Now we have little.
it's
Gavin.
so cute.
With that level of excitement, what can you leverage?
I mean, I'm like, holy cow, I need to have my
What?
paragraph be about
Participation.
Mexico.
Participation, what else
Yeah.
can you leverage?
I I don't know, I was so blown away.
Applying the skills.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's the complexity of the skill, because the content itself is getting them excited. They're not going to get bored with the content. So now you can say, so I want you to think deeply on how to compare, or whatever the skill that we're going to be.
I was actually thinking of doing that next week because we're talking about both banderas. We're talking about that, the bandera de los Estados Unidos.
Puerto Rico and Cuba.
And we're talking about also the Mexican bandera, and we're talking about the celebrations, right? So how are they different? How are those two celebrations different? Because they both are similar, but they both have a different. They're both independent. But I was like, I could totally do a compare contrast in this,
Walk me through.
and they would be into it. They would be way into it.
How would you make sure that me as a Latino don't get caught up in the two flags, but I do get caught up in the compare? Because I may just get caught up in the cultural piece and not the skill piece. How are you going to make sure of that?
Well, we have two types of people. Well, we have a mix, but we have children that are native English speakers, and they're not Hispanic at all. And then we have.
I think they need a good graphic organizer to organize their.
Sure. And
You know,
use the kids too.
And they need to do a lot of sharing beforehand. They need to do a lot. Like here's my this was about traditions. We talked about traditions, and so I want to have them come whenever I get a chance. I haven't been able to do it. Like when they come in from recess, grab a sticky note and let's share what you have, and then put it back. Okay. And so that kind of a thing, like doing a lot of that before they actually get to, because otherwise, yeah.
They'll get lost. They'll get lost in the excitement and not knowing that they're comparing and contrasting.
Yeah.
Okay. I see that you're obviously going to be doing some academic vocabulary, because you said, what do we have in our academic? Distinguish, compare, identify.
Patterns.
So how do I say this? You can do all the Jackson.
Yeah. No, yeah.
So Jennifer, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
When you have like your language scouts or your
Mhm.
leaders, whatever.
They're my little experts.
Do they do like the positive descriptive feedback when they're giving feedback to their peers?
They don't, because I haven't taught them to do it yet.
So not doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. No, they do. They've just been giving them bananas, but
As being a facilitator, I want to be mindful of time, because we're going to get to some really good parts too.
okay. Yeah,
What-
we have
how
like
much
10
time do
minutes.
we
We have 10 minutes left.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I
They're
don't
gonna
want
be whether
to.
you're ready or
Yeah,
not.
there
They'll
is marching
sit on
in,
you.
baby. Be like, that's my seat.
So ladies, I want you guys to help me. You guys got some great stuff in the teaching piece, and I know you're probably going to add as you go on.
Yeah, we will.
What will be some key formative assessment? They don't have to be formal,
Right.
but formative assessments that you're going to be inputting into this.
I'm just gonna, during group, listen to them read.
Okay.
Yeah. So guided reading. Which one are we on?
Uh,
Oh, right here.
Determine the assessment.
Hold on, this should go up here. Whoops. Whoopsie daisy.
They are taking their interim.
So you get it. So
There's
you're
gonna be a
interim.
form.
Okay. So that's more formal.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other informal formatives?
Really in group time, when we're all on the carpet.
Okay. Checking for understanding
Yeah.
strategies. Okay.
Yeah.
Do they need to show any? Do you have whiteboards or?
They have
Yeah, we have
whiteboards, they have
whiteboards. There's
fonts,
we
yeah.
can do a ton of stuff with whiteboards. I
Okay.
have alphabet cards I could use.
With their-
You know.
So help me then. What will be the formal, or what would be the data set that we're going to bring back here to analyze, like we did just at the beginning? What are one or two assessments that both of you guys are going to bring and say, okay, my kids know this, my kid don't know this, we have to reteach. What would be that more formal assessment?
The formal.
It doesn't have to be formal.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah.
What data we're going to bring back?
What can we see?
Yeah. That will determine if they got that standard or that skill.
Well, we're gonna meet when? Well, a month from now? I would say that they should be at least up a level
I was gonna say
in
that,
DRA.
their reading level.
So you're going to
Especially,
bring DRA?
yeah, because I think especially the kids who are like at 1s and 2s and 6s, it is not, they should actually be gaining levels
Gotta move quick.
every 2 weeks, yeah. If not faster than that, hopefully, so I think a DRA,
Okay, so what I would like for you to do in the tool is the DRA is going to be the data piece that we're gonna bring back. That will be
Where do
something
you want
that
us to
will,
put that?
just right here.
Right there in that
Just put a star next to the one that
Okay.
you know that you're gonna have to bring.
DRA.
Is there anything else that
Great.
you're gonna need to do to analyze to help you with instruction?
I think that giving like a letter inventory to kids who are really low, I don't know, like a before and after.
Well, and I heard you guys saying that actual academic vocabulary that you're teaching them,
Could be.
you want them producing. So aren't you gonna link it to like your spelling test?
Yeah.
Or the activity in your spelling test of that or something?
We could,
You
yeah.
could bring back samples of that.
So
Just to see if they got that. That's good. Is that something that we're bringing back? Okay, awesome, awesome. Now here's what we talked about earlier. We know that possibly 40% of the kids are not gonna get it.
I know, it's very sad.
So